Life can throw you into the toughest spots imaginable. Imagine being a soldier, fighting for your country, and then suddenly everything changes. You're captured. You become a prisoner of war. This isn't a movie. This was the reality for many brave men during World War II. Their world shrank to the size of a cold, cramped camp, surrounded by barbed wire and uncertainty. They were far from home, separated from the people they loved most. Every day was a battle, not against an enemy on a field but against the gnawing emptiness inside. The future was a complete unknown, a blank page they couldn't write on. The suffering they endured wasn't always about physical violence. It was a quieter, more relentless kind of hardship. Hunger was a constant companion, a dull ache that never truly went away. The cold seeped into their bones, a damp chill that no thin blanket could ever fully block out. They lost all their privacy, living shoulder to shoulder with other men, their every moment watched. This constant struggle, this stripping away of basic comforts and freedoms, was a heavy weight to carry. It was a test of the human spirit, pushing them to their absolute limits day after day. These men were young, full of life and dreams for the future. Suddenly all of that was put on hold, replaced by a monotonous routine of survival. They missed the simple things we all take for granted: a warm meal, a comfortable bed, a hug from a loved one. The mental toll was immense. The question of when will this end echoed in their minds, often with no answer in sight. They had to find a reason to get up each morning, to keep going when every instinct might have told them to give up. Their resilience was their greatest weapon in this silent war. The experience of being a prisoner carves deep lines into a person's soul. It's a profound loss of control, a feeling of being completely at the mercy of circumstances beyond your power. The days bleed into one another, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun over the fences that hold you in. The psychological pressure is enormous, a constant test of one's will to live. Yet it is in these very places, these crucibles of suffering, that something extraordinary can begin to take shape. It's where the true nature of strength and the depth of the human spirit are revealed. When you talk to these men, years after their liberation, you expect to hear only stories of pain. But something else emerges. When I listened to the stories of 24 of these former prisoners, a surprising theme came up again and again. Every single one of them said that their time in the camp, as terrible as it was, taught them something vital. They felt that God had used that dark period to teach them profound lessons. These weren't lessons you could learn in a school or from a book. They were lessons forged in the fire of adversity, lessons that would shape the rest of their lives. They discovered a new kind of strength, one they never knew they possessed. Stripped of everything, they learned to rely on something deeper. They found that faith wasn't just for comfortable times on a Sunday morning, it was a lifeline in the middle of a storm. They learned about patience, not just waiting for something to happen, but enduring with a sense of purpose. They learned about the power of community, sharing their last crumbs of bread and their last ounces of hope with the men beside them. These lessons became the foundation upon which they rebuilt their lives. The experience gave them a powerful perspective. After living with so little, they learned to appreciate everything. A simple meal became a feast. The freedom to walk down a street became an incredible gift. They learned to separate what truly matters in life from what is merely a distraction. Family, faith, and freedom took on a new, more profound meaning. This newfound clarity helped them navigate the challenges of life after the war with a wisdom that many people never find. Their hardship gave them a lens through which they saw the world with more gratitude and understanding. In the silence and solitude of their confinement, they had time to think, to really confront their own beliefs. It was in that stripped-down existence that their faith became real and personal. It wasn't just a set of ideas, it was a living, breathing source of strength that sustained them. They spoke of finding a connection to God that was deeper and more powerful than anything they had known before. This spiritual awakening was the unexpected treasure they found buried in the dirt of their prison camp, a treasure that would enrich them for the rest of their days. It's crucial to understand one thing very clearly. Even though these men learned invaluable lessons, not a single one of them would have chosen to go there. If you had asked any of them before the war if they would volunteer for a prison camp to learn about faith and resilience, they would have said no, absolutely not. The pain was real, the suffering was immense, the fear and the loneliness were genuine. They would never wish that experience upon anyone, and they would never choose to relive it themselves. The lessons came at an incredibly high price. This is a vital point. We don't seek out hardship. We don't pray for difficult times or invite tragedy into our lives. Life, in its own unpredictable way, often leads us into situations we would do anything to avoid. We find ourselves in our own kinds of prison camps. A serious illness, the loss of a job, a broken relationship. These are the unchosen classrooms of life. We are enrolled not by choice but by circumstance. The challenge isn't about wanting to be there but about what we do once we find ourselves inside those walls. The value of the lessons learned does not erase the trauma of the experience. The tears they shed when they spoke of their liberation were a testament to the pain they endured. The joy of freedom was so intense because the reality of captivity had been so bleak. It's a paradox of the human experience. The deepest growth often comes from the deepest wounds. Acknowledging the pain is part of the process. It's okay to hate the hardship. It's normal to wish it had never happened. The strength comes from finding meaning in it anyway, so we must be careful not to romanticize suffering. It is not something to be desired. But we can recognize that God, in His wisdom, can use these unwanted circumstances for our good. He doesn't cause the pain, but He can redeem it. He can enter into our darkest moments and bring light. He can take the broken pieces of our lives and build something stronger and more beautiful than what was there before. The prisoners didn't choose the camp, but they chose how to respond to it, and that made all the difference. There is a powerful echo of this experience in the ancient words of the Bible. In Psalm 31, the writer King David feels like he's trapped in a besieged city. He is surrounded by enemies, filled with fear, and feels cut off from God's sight. He cries out, "I am forgotten as though I were dead. I have become like broken pottery." This is the language of someone in their own personal prison, feeling hopeless and abandoned. It's a raw and honest expression of despair, a feeling those prisoners of war would have understood completely. But then, something shifts. In the middle of his fear, David makes a choice. He chooses to trust. He says, "But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God." This is the turning point. It's not that his circumstances instantly changed. The city was still under siege. The danger was still real. But he shifted his focus from the walls around him to the God above him. He remembered God's faithfulness in the past and chose to believe in it for the future. This act of faith was his anchor in the storm. This is the core lesson from the prisons and the Psalms. Faith doesn't always remove the hardship, but it gives you the strength to endure it. For the prisoners, faith was the belief that their lives still had meaning, that they were not forgotten, and that one day they would be free. For us, in our own struggles, faith is the quiet confidence that we are not alone. It is the hope that there is a purpose in our pain, even if we can't see it yet. It's about trusting that light will eventually break through the darkness. So, when you find yourself in one of life's prison camps, remember these stories. Remember that you are in an unchosen classroom where profound lessons can be learned. Look for the glimmers of hope. Lean on your faith no matter how small it may feel. Trust that, like the psalmist, you can find strength even in the midst of the siege. God can use these very moments, the ones you would never choose, to build in you a resilience and a depth of character that you could not have gained any other way. Hold on. Your liberation day will come.